Everybody, this is part of a series of webinars that Queen's is running as part of this Digital Transformation Flexible Fund. So again, this is a funding you can get as part of your business to help you digitally transform the way you kind of operate your business here. So this webinar today is all about IoT and smart technologies and what it can do for your business. So the DTF fund applies to 6 different subjects. This is one of them you can kind of use for your business as well. So as part of the Queen's kind of partnership, they're running these seminars to educate people on the ways they can use it for their business. So we can go through some stuff. Yeah, so you can just see here's the webinars, the series of webinars you can do. So the other ones that are been passed here is the leveraging digital transformation for sustainable businesses. What is big data? Today you're hearing about the smart IoT and smart tech, and then next week then there'll be robotics. And then how you can use robotics to deliver automation within your business. And then the next one is kind of how to drive improvements with AI and machine learning. That's a big subject these days. Again, a lot of businesses are getting a bit of an edge in their kind of operations just using AI and ML, and again increasing their margins. So it's good to find out what other businesses are doing, and then enhance customer experiences in immersive tech to drive sales. Again, that's on the 12th of November. Again, how could you use that? Again, I find VR and AR are just a sales enablement tool that you can use to help you drive sales. So again, good to see what other people in the industry are doing. And then understanding blockchain to supply chain. That's another one. Again, that's quite a fourth industrial revolution kind of subject, blockchain. So just to find out, and then how to plan and build your digital strategy, which is key to any of this digital transformation we're talking about. If you need to have a strategy before you get into kind of implementing any digital transformation. I've seen from any digital transformation that happens, when there's no strategy, there's no plan, it normally fails, or it goes on for longer, or it costs more. So that one out key is there to help you kind of build that kind of way. So perfect. So just introductions. My name is Martin Naughton. I'm Managing Director at Galvia Digital. So we're based in Belfast here. So we're a digital transformation company, and we work within those kind of six subjects there, kind of smart IoT, AI, ML, big data, blockchain, robotics, and VR, AR. So we help a lot of companies with their digital transformation journey, and either bespoke or off-the-shelf kind of solutions they're looking for. And here's Davey Sins is here and he's head of sales and IoT at Photonic Management, which is a water quality IoT sensor that he'll talk about there. He can kind of explain a bit more. So we're just going to be here bringing you the next hour, then a few presentations here about just explaining how it applies to your business and how you can kind of use IoT, and then how you can apply to the DTFF to kind of de-risk your project as well. So the DTFF background, that's what we're going to do first, and eligibility and the process. So again, it's just knowing the journey you're going to go on with the DTFF there, what background, if you're eligible to kind of get it. And then I'm going to go over the smart IoT and what is IoT and smart tech and what you can do for your business as well. I'm going to give you actually what is IoT. It's quite simple, and then also how it applies to your business, because again, that's what we're all here for, to see how we can increase efficiencies and increase margins. And then Davey's going to go through the Photonic Management, supporting businesses drive improvements, use of IoT and smart tech. Again, you're going to see a case study of how he's kind of used IoT, and then further help and support. And then you can ask any questions at the end you've had for me and Davey. There on the presentations we do, or on the DTFF again. So if you try that. Cool. So again, just quickly, we're going over the DTFF fund. So that's a Digital Transformation Flexible Fund. This is a fund that is set up to help businesses with their digital transformation journey. Again, Northern Ireland has noticed that they're falling behind in this digital transformation, and this is the government's incentive to help companies start on the digital transformation journey by de-risking the project, because that makes us more competitive as a country here. So and businesses need to kind of adapt this. We're kind of falling behind. If we don't, we're less competitive to any other companies across the EU and stuff. So again, it's demand-led kind of grant scheme. So it's again, who applies for it can kind of get the funding for it, and it's just to stimulate again digital transformation in the sector as well. And again, it's for me, from all the digital transformation projects I've done with companies, it's about de-risking the project. Again, there might be something very risky that you're doing as part of your company that you're not too sure if it will work for your company, but at least you try it and then see if it works. what I find with companies is if it doesn't, the digital transformation doesn't work for them, they'll pivot to something else, but they found a way, you know. So again, it's about trying and failure here. So again, it's just enables business transformation and digitalize the existing business model again. That's what we've seen, like, you know, ChatGPT is just transforming the whole like multiple sectors at the moment. So again, you just got to see that the innovation is starting to happen quicker and quicker every year, I find. So again, it's a 7.5 million capital grant fund. Again, you can get multiple different projects on this under this, and we can kind of go through it. And again, it's a revenue cost. It's capital grant. Yeah, so anything kind of capital, kind of machinery and stuff to kind of that you can apply to any council in Northern Ireland, and it's delivered by Nuri Morning-Down as well. So again, it's 7.5 million. They don't want to give this money back. There's a number of companies that can kind of get this. And again, what we want to do is just stimulate yourselves to kind of apply to it next March. So again, your eligibility, if you're eligible to get the grant, there's a few things that you can tick off your list to see if you're eligible. Okay, so you got to be based in Northern Ireland in one of the council areas. You can't be based in Dublin or anything and get this grant. It's a Northern Ireland specific grant, and every council has a certain number of companies that they would like to get through. So that's a big thing. So you have to be micro or a small business. So it's asked, you have to be under 50 people there to get this grant, and you got to be VAT registered. So again, I've just seen a lot of companies might be one person and they're just not VAT registered. You might not get this, but again, you could be VAT registered going over the 90 grand revenue, which signifies you have to be VAT registered. And then, but smaller companies also under 90 grand I've seen as well being VAT registered. So again, if you're not VAT registered, that knocks you off there at the moment. So it's open to all sectors except for agriculture, forestry, and fisheries. So that's one thing. There's another fund from DARA that does a similar thing that you can apply to if you're in those sectors. So that's another thing. And you have to have a digital transformation plan. So that's what the councils will fund. They want to see what you're actually going to do with the money and what kind of digital transformation you're going to do there. So the project must be centered around one or more of the 6 advanced digital technologies covered in the series, like robotics, blockchain, AI, VR, AR, smart IoT, and AI, ML, and big data. So again, it has to kind of cover those. And again, from just doing digital transformation, big data is nearly in any digital transformation project, big data is always part of that. There, and again, you can pop any questions about the DTFF to Sean there in the questions, and he'll in the little chat there, and he can answer them as well. And then it must be eligible expenditure must be capital grant, hardware devices, or software or system development. And again, you can kind of get 2 quotes for that, and then that's what you can get funded as well. And it's 70% funded, so that means you put in 30%, and the government will give you 70%, up to 20 grand. So, and again, it's got to be compliant with state aid and subsidies. So your de minimis, you have to be under your de minimis amount as well. So again, once you that applies to you, you can kind of go for a project again. And again, you can go for it 3 times. That's the thing over the lifetime of this fund. So you say you're successful in the first one, you can go for another application for the DTFF if you want to transform something else in the business. It's very successful, but it's just got to be a separate project. It can't be the same project over and over again. They want to separate. So again, what you want to know is the journey you're going to be on with the DTFF. So there's 6 stages here. There's 6. So the first stage is pre-application briefing. So this is kind of you'll go see a briefing session about it. Expression of interest. So that's available. That you go on the council website and you express an interest, because they want to filter out if people can and can't go for this fund. So you can just express your interest, what kind of plan you're going to do, and it's a very quick form you can do. So then once the councils review those, they'll send you out a link then to say you can apply for the full application then. So again, so that's in stage 3. So application for funding, and then application assessment. That's when the council will see your full application. So after the EOI, and they will then assess if you're eligible for the funding. You might, like, you know, stuff that's not funded that I've seen come through in other funds and stuff is like, I need a new website. There's other funding that does that. You know, that's not digital transformation. That's kind of what I call the old style kind of digital transformations. They've been there for 10 years. This is the new stuff that we need to adapt. Like, Facebook ads and Google ads, they're not covered under this. So you got to be thinking robotics, AI, machine learning, blockchain, IoT sensors, putting them in. So be thinking about that. So the councils will assess that. And then if you're successful, you get a letter of offer then. And then that's your letter saying, yes, you apply for this grant, and now you can draw down the funds. So, and then implementation and claims. So this is done in arrears. So you have to kind of spend the money to get the money back. So, so say if you're going for the full 20 grand, you have to have the full 20 grand spent before you can claim it back. Or just maybe correct me, Sean, on that, you might be able to kind of do in tranches, maybe 5 grand or 5 grand. So again, it depends, but it's always in arrears and stuff like that. So Sean will correct me in the chat on that. Perfect. So you'll be glad the next one's coming up for the fund. So there's different calls. So they'll have calls maybe every 4 months for this. So you'll go through the EOI process, expression of interest, and you go for the full application. Then you get the funding. But then that will stop for that tranche, and then it will start again. So again, the government's doing it in like one big go, and then having a bit of a break in one big go. So call 4 is out now in March 2025. So there'll be expression of interest before that you apply to your council. Now there's one thing actually with the expression of interest. You can apply for expression of interest at any time now up to then, and the councils will, if they have time, assess them, give you feedback on your application if it's eligible or not, or what you have to do. So that will kind of, you can do that from now, and then the full application will be for March 2025, and then they'll go into assessment stage. So again, after the seminar, you might think of an IoT application that you want to embed into your company. Again, put an EOI and get a bit of feedback from the council. Cool. So that's about the DTFF now. So one thing I'm just going to go over in Galvia Digital is just some IoT. So I've got about 15 minutes here to kind of go over this. And I just want to get you to understand what IoT is from a basics perspective and kind of build you up then. And again, it's not as difficult as you see. You see IoT every day in your own lives at the moment. Again, technology has become part of our daily lives and stuff. So Galvia Digital, we have a lot of companies come to us with different ideas. Maybe they need a bit of R&D, research and development, on a new kind of service they need to do, or they want to look at their own operational efficiencies. But their whole clear plan is over the next 5 years, they need to change their business because they've seen their competitors starting to digitally automate some of their processes. So Internet of Things, again, it's just, Internet of Things has been there for years and years and years, but again, it's just a buzzwords that come in the last maybe 10 years that everybody goes, I'm IoT ready, or I'm an IoT application. So what it really is, if you kind of get to the next stage, is all you have is an object or objects that are connected to the internet. That's all IoT is. Again, your phone is an IoT. Do you know if it's a smartphone? That's IoT. That has a bunch of sensors on it that can send up data to the cloud. That is internet connectivity. That's, your Roomba, the device that cleans your floors and stuff and hoovers your floors, that's an IoT device. That's what they would class as an IoT device. Your TVs now turn an IoT device. Again, it's capturing data. So those smart TVs, which only last a few years now, they're IoT as well. So again, it's just about having connectivity to the internet, and that's all it is. So again, anything could be IoT enabled. Again, and there's multiple ways you can connect to the internet as well. It's through Wi-Fi, which everybody knows their laptops or their phones connects to, or the Roomba connects to, but there's LoRaWAN, Sigfox. There are other ways to connect to the internet, or mobile 4G as well as another way to connect it. So enabling your thing. So again, let's start from the basics of, you have sensors here. And again, maybe what you could think of for the Q&A is, ask me some questions on some of your business processes, or also what kind of sensors you could use for your business process to automate some of your data collection as well. So again, you have some kind of just high level sensors you can have here. So we could look at leak level sensors here. Again, just in my own house here, I have a leak sensor in the bathroom. So what happens is if there's a leak in the bathroom, it sends a signal then to the outside tap to turn on and cut off the water to the rest of their house. Because if there's a leak in the house, I can then drain the whole house of water straight away, and it cost me less money then to fix any water damage and stuff like that. So again, that's a leak level kind of water detection and there. So that could be just a leak that I have. Another one we could look at here is just temperature, humidity sensors. Again, we're looking at sustainability these days, and again, using less energy to heat our homes. So you could use those kind of, and again, for your businesses, heat and moisture sensors. Again, what that could do is you have a temperature sensor in your business that sends up data to the cloud and lets people know then if the heat's been on too long or how long it's been on for, and again, trends as well, and doesn't need to be on as well. Because what you can do with some IoT things, say we have the temperature sensor there and the proximity or presence sensor is, you could have the kind of building managing, like, actually there's no one in the building here, we'll lower the temperature here again. You're just increasing your efficiencies as well. One that I'm looking into a lot these days is machine vision. So that's a way of, like, I see the next 5 to 10 years is, can we automate something that someone has to go on site to look at by using computer vision to, identify objects or information that we need to collect. Again, we're using computer vision now at the moment for tracking traffic in the area, so it can spot different cars, how busy it is in that area as well. So there. So there's always a sensor available for any of these IoT things. All you got to do is connect to the internet and collect the data. That's the main thing. IoT on its own, in terms of just a sensor, there's no use in that. You need to send data to the cloud to kind of, or to your local server to kind of get that. So again, these are some types of sensors you can kind of look at. You got, like, LDR there. That's just a light sensor to say, is there light coming in or not? You can use that sensor. Another one there is a water sensor, just to tell if there's any water in the area. As well, you have a humidity sensor there. You have a pressure sensor, like a touch sensor there, just on the top left. And again, all that's doing is sending information to the cloud to collect data. Just mute there. 2 seconds. Sorry. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, so again, think of your kind of use case that you want, and then that's what I find people have to go look for. Is there a sensor that can do my use case? And sometimes there might be 2 or 3 sensors that you need to do your use case. I'll give you an example. We were doing a project before where we had to check if someone was in the room now without a camera, but one thing we had to do is use maybe 3 different sensors to kind of do that, because we'd have to know if the person left the room as well. So that's a big bit of an issue here, when you don't have a camera, because again, the person could stop moving, so then you have no sensor. So you could use a heat sensor if you wanted, you could use a presence sensor as well, but you need to kind of use a few sensors as well to kind of capture that data correctly. Perfect. And then I always kind of go over this this slide here, and again, you can just say, like, IoT can be used in multiple scenarios, multiple sectors. It can be used in tourism. It can be used in like, a lot of people think it's just for manufacturing. It can be used in restaurants. It can be used in cafes. And again, it's just what you want to monitor and what you want to optimize. Again, what I always say is what gets measured gets managed. So if you're looking at, like, how you're using electricity in your office, you need to kind of have some predictable way to collect that data, so then you can make decisions based on a dashboard or based on the data you collected there. So again, it's just looking at those kind of things. So again, you could have air pollution ones. Again, Department of Infrastructure, if they're looking at that air pollution, they put out sensors. They don't have to send out people to kind of measure it for a certain amount of time. They can have an air pollution sensor that's out there 24/7, collecting real-time information that sends it back to the Department of Infrastructure as well. And again, another one I've seen before, I've seen it down in Galway, is forest fire detection there. So again, what they used to do before is they used to send out people just kind of camping around the area in Galway, just in case there was a fire happening. So what they now do, and Vodafone got involved, is they have forest fire detection sensors out in certain areas around the forest by culture there. So if there's a fire, they get an automatically automated text message that there's potential fire in a certain area. They know where to go to, and then they just they've optimized their kind of their process as well there. And so Structural health as well. We've just been on a project on structural health. That's a bridge. So again, during COVID there, one company we were working with before would send out every 6 months a civil engineer to do an assessment on a bridge or in a building. So what they were saying during COVID is they couldn't send that person out anymore because of the restrictions. So what they needed to do is automate that kind of data collection. So now what they have, instead of sending the person out every 6 months, they'll send them out every maybe 2 years. But based on what they put out there is these sensors on these structures to collect the data they would normally do on site themselves. So what that does is it collects the data, sends it to the cloud, and then they can do automated reporting as well. So all that was a manual process before. So the person would go outside, collect the data, go back to the office, generate the report, send it to the customer. They've automated that process now, so that civil engineer they have works on higher value tasks now. Instead of doing those kind of reports. Again, that's them optimizing it. They can increase their margins and they can reduce their costs, making them more competitive to other companies as well. So that's what digital transformation is even done for that company, just looking at structural information as well. And again, you've got traffic congestion, like traffic congestion in Belfast in the last week. We operate near the new Boyne Bridge there, which they've closed down. Traffic's gotten horrendous. So I was even thinking, how could we start monitoring traffic a bit more there? But again, that's what you can do within Belfast. Well, waste management's the classic as well, that instead of sending everybody around to check all the bins, could you have a sensor in the bin that collects the data and tells it when it's full? So then you can do automatic routing to the actual bins that need to be collected instead of going to every bin in the city as well. Like, so again, it's just, you can optimize a lot of things. You just got to find the sensor, get connectivity, and collect the data, and then do something with the data. So there. So another thing about, you'll see this on the DTFF website, is like, how can I help my business? So you can think of cost savings. So you as a business, you're either making money, or saving time. So there are the three things. So cost savings you can do as part of IoT. So if you're able to put these sensors out there, send your people out less, they're working back at the office on higher value tasks, that's being automated of the collection of data that you're doing. And again, this could be on machinery, this could be on, if you're in hospitality or restaurants, there, how many people are coming into your restaurants. I worked with McDonald's before, part of an IoT project, and what it was they wanted to know how many people came into their restaurant. They were basing on the point of sale information, so how many people bought burgers and stuff like that. But now what they have is they have a little camera, and what that does, it just does face detection on the people. And what it does for GDPR reasons is it just sends back a number from the camera to the cloud. So it says, oh, in the last 5 minutes, there was 5 people. And it's able to tell the difference of the different people. They can't tell if a person's left and come back. They'll count it as a new person. But what they're doing is they're optimizing their data collection now, but they also know how busy they are and stuff. So again, that can improve their customer experience as well, because one thing they were having is people go to the drive-through and there'd be people on the tills as well. So they didn't know where to put people unless they looked out. So now they're kind of automating their kind of staff to say, here, look, we need more people on the tills because there's more people coming in. So and then there's another one, data-driven decision making. That's what we should be doing. There is collecting the data and making a decision based on the data. Like so. There, and then remote monitoring and management. You can remotely monitor anything. You don't have to send people out. Again, sending people out anywhere to monitor something for a certain amount of time is the time involved getting out there with the journey, getting the data and sending it back, but also human error of that. So if someone collects data and you send a different person out the next time, they might collect the data differently. At least with the IoT and you have the sensors out there, it's consistently collecting the data, but also you've got a fixed cost of collecting that data. If you send out 2 different people, they might be 2 different hourly wages as well. And then it might be senior, might be junior. But again, with the IoT, you've set up your process to collect the data and fix your costs and then work on your margins as well. And then again, what else it can help is enhance operational efficiency. That's where you're collecting enough data to make a data-driven decision there. So again, be thinking about these kind of things, you can have it. And again, ask Q&As at the end, I can do it. But again, what I'm talking about is data-driven. So data processing is part of your data-driven decisions. So data processing, data analytics, and data-driven decisions. So you have to collect the data, process it in the way you kind of want to see it, do analytics. You can do your trend analysis on it, or You can look into, you know, correlation of that data with other data that you might have, and then you create your data-driven decisions as well. And again, what I find as well with another kind of meaning is, you know, employees leave a job, but processes stay. So if you have a process that's like automated there to collect the data, it doesn't matter who's looking at it. It's an automated process that they can kind of, anybody can start to look at and work on higher level tasks. And at the end of the day, then what you want is a dashboard of collected data. Do you know, some businesses will, if you even get the dashboard, you're on a different level to maybe other companies. Other companies, again, might have higher level, like, you know, automation going, this data collected in, so we'll do this. You know, that's an if then else kind of thing. But again, just for yourselves, if you're starting on this journey, even getting a dashboard of the data you collected, automating your processes will really increase your kind of margins and also know your fixed costs, but also increase efficiencies as well. Like so. But that's kind of in my presentation. But if you want to ask any questions, it's very high level and done. I could do this for an hour and we still wouldn't get everything got done. But again, just be thinking about IoT for your business. There's an awful lot it can help with as well. So I'll bring it on to Davey then. I'll go on mute there, Davey, then, if you want to kind of photonic management then, Sarah, into your presentation.
Thanks very much, Martin. Good afternoon. I'm Davey Sims. I'm head of sales and IoT at Photonic Measurements. We're a water quality instrumentation and services company. We work mainly in drinking water and wastewater with the water utilities. We've also worked with environmental agencies on projects where we're remotely monitoring rivers and reservoirs. I just see if I can share my screen to make it easier to. Yeah, if you just do the slides, Martin. Next slide,
yeah,
Martin.
if you just say next slide. Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so as Martin sort of described, IoT is really applying sensors, networks, and data to solve problems. And while Martin's sort of going through the funding requirements and a bit on the technology, I wanted to focus more on the business applications. Next slide, Martin. So I suppose why should anybody in business care about IoT anyway? If we take a look at this slide, so on the left-hand side, we're able to track, in this instance, we're tracking pollution at a wastewater treatment works, and you're able to summarize up the data that's happened in the last 60 minutes. And on the right-hand side, we're able to see data over a longer term. But really, when you're doing a strategy involving IoT, it's really about thinking about what the data can do for your business. So what problems do you have currently? I'm sure, you know, if you're like myself, running a business, there are lots of problems. But finding a problem where you don't have good data to help you. So, and I like to think about it's the unknown unknowns. So it's the things that you haven't really thought about that either cause you a great deal of pain in terms of, you know, plant shutdowns, or in the water industry, they're talking about pollution events, or it's you don't have a long-term benchmark as to what happens in a process. So I wrote down a quick few things. So some of the things that we have looked at is automating inventory. So one of the things is whenever we're buying in our electronic components, one of the things that so the larger things are easy to track, but the small things like screws and nuts and bolts are the thing that always gets forgotten about. So one of the ways we track that now is we have a Kanban system and a level sensor. And the level sensor is pretty cheap, so you're able to automatically check that. So the purchasing team and the production team don't need to go and do that and remember to order the screws. It's done automatically. The next thing that we've done is finding lost equipment or supplies. Now that could be within your factory, but one of the examples I have is that we put probes into rivers, and normally sometimes at the source of the river, so it'll be up a dale, and you can't find your way to that location without a GPS tracker being on that piece of kit. You might be doing it in the dark. So you put a GPS tracker on and it sends a signal as to say, how to get to that piece of equipment. And also it tells you if somebody's taking it away. So you can track lost equipment. Real-time costs on energy consumption is another thing. So I talk about a bigger opportunity there with water companies. But one of the things that we have is we put temperature monitors in every room. And we also put sensors on the front and back door. So we're able to see when the front and back door opens and how often it opens on a daily basis. So we can remind staff to close the door after them to keep the heat in, especially during the winter. Solving customer support issues was very important for us. We're putting these IoT sensors into waterworks as far away as China and in Indonesia. So we want to be able to see when there's a fault and react to that fault to help support the customer remotely across the globe. Another personal example I had was my dishwasher had a fault on the switch, on the handle, and they had to send a guy out to replace that. The new dishwasher I bought after that one died now has Wi-Fi connection, so they'll probably be monitoring the switch to see when it needs to be changed out and swapped out. The next one is to try and stop struggling with increases in supplies and operating costs. And one of the other ones that I find was particularly working in the water industry is hazardous jobs. So sending men or women down into drains to do sewer monitoring is incredibly expensive and incredibly dangerous. 1 in 10 people die going down sewers. So it's an accident that they want to prevent totally. So they have gone for putting machine vision cameras down and drones down into doing sewer monitoring and relaying that information back up to the guys remotely. Next slide, please. So to try and get your grey matter thinking of, I put together a sort of easy way to remember these things. So I call it fusion. So if you think about the business benefits, so the first one is flexibility. So being able to scale up or scale down processes based on demand automatically. That's what I mean by flexibility. Utilization is, again, a good example of that is a company I know put current, so energy monitors, onto the welding stations in their production, and they found that welders were only able to do 2 hours of welding per day, and they found that the rest of the time they were actually building jigs to allow them to weld and getting the metal together in position for them. So they hired a mechanical jigger to basically build these jigs and get everything ready for them. And they were able to double the welding throughput just by finding out that information on that data and how they can improve that process. The next one is savings, and the big one here, probably the easy one, is to go after energy. So when our doors open, when our boilers turned on or off, when our windows left open, all those sorts of things can be all done automatically. And I talk a bit more about this with the water companies, how they're trying to go sustainable and save energy. Insights is really about talking about data-driven decisions. So making decisions based on known good data rather than guessing. And again, putting sensors on pieces of equipment, production processes, and supplies can all go to driving those insights. Optimization is looking for peak efficiency or continuous improvement. So in the water industry, they're particularly concerned about chemical usage and chemical dosing, but they want to optimize that based on the need. So they put sensors in the water to automatically measure how dirty the water is, how much chemical they need to put into that. And finally, networking. So and what I mean by networking is we're connecting sensors and things to people to help them make decisions, or we're doing it automatically. So we're able to connect the number of sensors coming out every year is phenomenal. And so if you think about, you now have health monitors on your wrists, on your Apple Watch or a Garmin watch. So the number of sensors that is coming out seems to be only restricted by our imaginations. Next slide, please, Mark. So one of the things that we've been working on in the water industry is that water and wastewater treatment is one of the largest users of electricity. So they typically is about 4% of worldwide electricity is used by the water industry. And one of the crucial measurements is measuring nitrates in water treatment is critical to saving 27% of electricity costs. So the nitrate measurements in wastewater are not 100% reliable. They're either done in laboratories, which means that they take a sample, they go off to a lab and they get a result after the fact, or they're using chemicals that are, hazardous materials, and the chemicals run out and you have to replace them. So this is a job that we were able to do using IoT. So we're in the system here on the right hand side, we have some pumps passing the water through over our sensors that are located in line with that tubing. And on the left, we've got 2 electronic controllers. And above that, the white box is really the IoT. So it's adding up or collecting in a database all the information from those controllers. We have two systems there. We're measuring nitrates and we're measuring turbidity, another measurement. And inside that box, there's the antenna to send that data back to a portal that NI Water can look at remotely. Next slide, please. So the main benefit of this is that the plant is able to see what its baseline is for nitrates and other factors over the year. So seasonality has been a big thing when people go on holidays. When you get colder weather, your process changes, and they can also measure the load coming into the plant as well. So they can set up their algorithms to control their process much more efficiently, and they can save the electricity by turning down oxygen, and they have big blowers that blow oxygen into the water to help clean it up. They can turn those off when they don't have sufficient load, and that's where the electricity savings come from. They can then they're actually looking at what other additional processes can they put in to meet regulations and to improve things. So they were able to size an ultraviolet disinfection system, which is probably the guts of £1 to £2 million, depending on what's required. Now, by having better data, they can size that spend, so they might be able to get away with £1 million one and not the £2 million one, because they've done a proper analysis over a whole year. So they can reduce capital spend, and as we all know, government budgets are restricted, or always under trying to do more with less. The other thing is they can prevent pollution events, which helps them become more compliant. And as we all know, it's very popular in the press at the minute. They want to be able to do things better and improve and meet regulations. But the main thing they were able to do is reduce significantly that electricity cost, which means that for every four water plants, you're effectively getting one for free, which helps meet them sustainability targets. And a sort of side benefit with, once you start capturing data, you always find something else that you can do that. So a sort of secondary consequence is they'll be able to see when things are starting to fail earlier. So by measuring every 10 seconds, they're getting a measurement. They're able to see when you get anomalies in the data, or the process isn't just working right. And that could be as simple as, our pump is starting to run a bit rough. Maybe we need to get maintenance team in to fix that. Next slide, please, Martin. That's it. Back to you, Martin.
Cool. Thanks, Davey. There. So again, that's kind of Davey's presentation on the using water sensors there. But again, what I'm thinking about here for yourselves is further help and support that you can as part of as part of the DTFF. So again, just to help you with the DTFF, you can kind of talk to a bunch of these different organizations, government organizations. So you can talk to Queen's about your DTFF. application, you can get help there. The further education colleges like the Belfast Met, NRC, SRC, they can also help with your DTFF application. They can also implement your DTFF application as well, in terms of, when you get the funding, they could be a supplier to you as well, if you're thinking about that. University of Ulster, the local authorities as well. So if you also need help and you don't go to the colleges or universities, you can go on the Go Succeed program as well, and you get 21 hours of mentoring. So say if you're thinking about digital transformation and you need about 21 hours from an industry expert, you can get that for free. And they can help you with your application. They can also help you find solutions to your kind of digital transformation that you want to do, or actually just look at your processes and going, actually, did you know you could automate some of this, or you can collect this data from this machinery, or there's these types of sensors. Again, that's just making you more efficient. Again, you're running a business, you need to get answers quicker, and then that helps you fill in your application. You're more likely to be successful. There's Innovate and I that can also help as well. So they're part of kind of Invest in I, getting your accreditation for your innovation there. And then there's Innovate Us from the Invest in I, and there's Innovate Us as well. There are other programs that can help you. Say innovation voucher can be used there for 70 hours to get one of the colleges then to implement a prototype before you even go for the DTFF there, digital transformation, if you want as well. So there's multiple ways you can do the digital transformation journey in Northern Ireland. And also the DTFF is just to help you move a bit quicker and stuff like that. So further details can be found on the DTFF website. That kind of way, and all who to contact. Another thing you could do with the Queen's University there is kind of go on some courses. So any kind of subject myself personally, I'd start diving into is I like to do a little course on it or get a book on it. Again, I'm just trying to accelerate my learning a bit quicker. But again, you can go to Queen's here and they already got a course ready for you that's fully funded. So you can look at strategic change and leadership for digital transformation. You've never gone on this journey. You might as well get a framework for how to do it and go on this course. And the Queen's is kind of set up and multiple companies have already gone through it. And then you can look at another one, digital transformation and emerging technologies. You can look at what the future holds in terms of digital transformation, making sure that you're one step ahead of your competitors. And again, they've got a course there ready to go that you can kind of learn. And again, it's all kind of, you're directed through it the whole time instead of yourself, if you're not doing these courses, going on YouTube, going on Google, trying to find out what digital transformation could mean for you as a business. And then there's data analytics and decision making as well. So that's another course you can go on, learn about how to do data analytics and make decision making based on data-driven decisions. So they're all courses ready made, fully funded. You can go on them in person, online, available from Queen's as well, like so. Perfect. And again, after tomorrow now, what they'll do with this webinar is they will put it up on the William J. Clinton Leadership Institute's YouTube channel. So if you want to go to that channel, click the subscribe button there and you can kind of get all the notifications of all future YouTube videos that the Clinton Leadership Institute is adding all the time. So you can stay ahead of the competitors and stay. What I like about these kind of webinars, it's local to Northern Ireland. You're not hearing about American companies talk about this or mainland UK companies. It's local people talking about local solutions that you can, digital transformation. You can scan the QR code as well then to get to the YouTube channel. And again, click that like button and subscribe if you want to hear more about them. Cool. And again, about the series, again, there's been 2 past series there and then, or past webinars, and there'll be future webinars as well. Again, if you want to find out more about going through. Again, this helps you on your DTFF journey as well, like so. And then cool. I'm just wondering if there's any questions or who has the first question here that just lost some mics here. But anybody can turn on their mic there. They want any kind of questions. If you don't have any questions, what about maybe if you want to ask a question, talk about your business very quickly, and I can think of some digital transformation that you can use for your own company. There again, it could be a restaurant. I have plenty of use cases for restaurants digitally transforming their thing. Don't know if there's any questions in the
Martin, I have a question for you. What is there any projects you worked on where they weren't successful?
Where they weren't successful, just trying to think there. Can't think off the top of my mind, but normally what happens, Davey, there is they pivot. Normally they find out what didn't work, but they're like, actually, this is what will work in the future. And again, we do a lot of R&D projects, and that's about really what finds out what we're trying to find out is what doesn't work, so they know what does works in the future. I'm trying to think of actually what ones didn't work. There, you've got me there, David. I can't think of one now that didn't work. It's normally like, yeah, they just kind of pivot. Like we nearly pivot very early on in the project, so because things don't work the way we expect it, and we try and get something as quick as possible. That's what I find.
Okay.
Perfect. Any other questions from anybody else there? I'll give you an example. Davey had some. Oh, sorry, John, you're up there.
Hi, Martin. How you doing?
Great job.
Thanks for yourself and Davey for the presentations. What makes a successful project, Martin? Like if you were planning that out from now and says, okay, I'm going to participate in the Digital Transformation Fund, hopefully successfully. What would make a good project? You know, what's the components?
Yeah, so a good component is just having a good plan. They're listing out what you need to have done beforehand. So I've seen, like maybe Davey as well, to answer your question, ones that haven't gone well or not failed is the ones that don't plan. Again, they're just like, oh, we'll put a sensor on this machine and we'll collect some data and we'll think about what's going on. It's like they're coming back to that machine the whole time. They haven't got the right sensor. They actually don't know the business problem they're trying to solve there, you know, and again, they're putting money into this and, you know, they start to pivot very quickly. So one of the things is clear a plan, and that's what the DTFF wants to see your plan. Who's involved in the plan? Because one thing actually, John, I've seen as well, like do a lot of digital transformation projects with companies, is there's no champion that's going to drive it. There's no one in the business that says, if this doesn't work, I'm going to be in trouble, or it's, you know, I'm accountability. So one component is a leader within the company that's going to drive that DTF forward. Because again, people are busy in the business. They'll go off and do something else, and then they'll be like, oh, we'll leave that project. It's not crucial to us now. So that's where you need one person that kind of drives that kind of project and kind of gives those updates. So that's a good component. A good plan, what your kind of timelines are, because what I find with digital transformation as well is I'm actually working with one company in Ballymena at the moment, and one thing I find is they're not going to do it until next May when they're not busy. Do you know, that kind of way? So then I got to go here, look, okay, next May, this is the plan, this is the timeline you want to get it implemented. Again, digital transformation projects without that kind of plan and that Gantt chart, that timeline, is I find they can go longer. So say you say, actually, it's going to take us 6 months to do this digital transformation project. It'll probably end up a year to a year and a half because the plan hasn't been properly sought out. And again, that's where people could start to get tired of the project, you know. So again, having a good plan, good timeline, who's going to be involved, and making sure they're accountable as well. It's part of it.
So I have one. So our sensors are require maintenance. So one of the things that we do work with our clients is especially the further afield ones like in Indonesia, is consider what spares to have on site, because all the sort of electronics will eventually fail at some point. So just adding some spares into, you know, your grant application, you know, just to cover yourselves, you know, in case you get a faulty sensor after a year or two or something like that.
Yeah, that's true as well. I've seen that in other companies. You just have the spares ready and stuff. And then one other thing, John, as well, is knowing how much something costs. I've seen companies as well that go, oh, we'll just collect data from somewhere. And I go, well, you're collecting the data today, you know, manually. I try and work out the cost of that actual process at the moment, because say the process costs £1,000 for that person to go out on site, collect the data for the day, drive in, drive out, come back to the office, update the report, you know, that kind of. And again, I put that 1,000. I just say that's going to take a few days. But I say then, okay, if we do digital transformation now, it costs maybe 100, you know, to do that. You know, if they can measure how much it's costing today manually, and then we can kind of get that number down, that's increasing your margin. Again, the company's more inclined to keep going with that because they can see the cost savings there. But I find people say, well, you know, they don't know how much cost it goes, a couple of hours, but I always normally work it out a minimum wage to say, okay, if that takes 50 hours to do that, a minimum wage is how much it's actually costing you to do that process. How do we get it down to £50 a month or something like that? So that's another thing that I see. A good component is knowing your costs that's involved. Cool. Any other questions there? People, just any use cases you're thinking about? Maybe just talk about your own business, you know, that kind of way. Just quick, anybody can ask and you can get free advice. Okay, well, I can bring up another one. Davey brought it up as well before. There's a linen company we were dealing with before, and all they did was deliver linen, and they would come in these cages. So they go to these hotels at the linen and these cages, and they would drop them off, and they would come back then when they were like either the linen was dirty or they just collect the empty cage and stuff like that. But one thing they started noticing, they were missing a lot of cages. These cages are not cheap as well, and they would go missing. They wouldn't know where they were delivered to. And maybe they got lost in the hotel. Again, the cost of the person coming to the hotel from that company to collect the linen cage, and again they didn't know where in the hotel the linen cage was. There's an awful cost there to kind of spend half an hour walking around the hotel looking for a cage. So what they started putting on is these kind of LoRaWAN GPS modules on every cage. They were now able to find out very quickly where all the cages were across the island. And if they went into a hotel, they knew exactly where it was in a certain area, not like exactly, but they knew where to look. Again, they're reducing their costs, but they're also knowing where all their inventory is, even though it's like island wide, even though the company was just based in Dublin. Again, that's just a use case that they reduce costs by using people's more time efficiently, but also not having to buy new cages and stuff. So again, that could apply to your business as well. Like again, simple as that. And another one I just seen, again, nobody has any questions, is restaurants. So when you go into, as a chef in a restaurant, you have to go around to different refrigerators and you have to take down daily or even a few times a day the temperature that refrigeration units. So they could be small refrigeration units or large ones all across, but they all got to be checked for health and safety and stuff like that. But that's that chef, that's a highly qualified person going around checking all these temperatures. So what I've seen restaurants now do, because they want to reduce that, that's a cost to them. And again, the sector has a shortage of chefs. They can't have the chefs going around checking temperatures. They need them cooking, and which brings in the money. So now what they're starting to do, the restaurants, is putting in these temperature sensors into every refrigerator. Again, the refrigerator could be 5 years old. You can get these smaller temperature sensor, collecting the data in the cloud. It's real-time data, and they can see then, and they're compliant then. So if health and safety come around, they go, here, look, this is the trend of this refrigerator over the last 6 months, hasn't dipped or anything like that. But also as well, that is good for stock control as well, in terms of it could be 2 o'clock in the morning, electricity goes and the temperature starts dropping in the refrigerator. If there's a lot of stock in there, you could lose 20, 30 grand worth of stock. And again, these temperature sensors can send a little text message, go, temperature drops at a certain level. Again, send me a text message. And again, that chef can get a text message, get into the, make a data-driven decision there, get into the restaurant and get their stock, out of there or into another container as well. Again, saving money and saving time and stuff. So again, that's just in the restaurant thing. So sorry, go on.
Hi, Martin. Just a quick question. Are you finding that some companies don't know where to start on this journey?
Yeah. They know they have to do a journey, but they don't know where to start. And that's what I'm saying. The Go Succeed program, Suzanne, if you got on that and you can go, here, look, I need to do digital transformation. Can I have someone look at what I do? And that's where you get an expert in that says, actually, Suzanne, what do you do yourself, just out of curiosity?
We work for CAFRE, so we work at part of the Department of Agriculture, one of the colleges, but we would do a lot of customer facing with clients in the food industry. Some of our businesses would be small, medium and large, but we would do a lot of signposting to events like this to tell them what's available. But some people are a bit wary about starting, especially smaller startup businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, how do you get people on board and get someone maybe into their company just to signpost, show them or talk through, maybe do a tour of the factory and say, look, there's 4 things in the business that I can see. And we don't mind signposting them to this process, but how would we go about getting come along with us to a site, or how does that work?
Is it for you, CAFRE, or are you thinking just your customers?
For our customers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the Go Succeed program is perfect for that. So I do the Go Succeed program. I'm part of the mentors on that. And I would go into, I would go into companies, and the first thing, like I've gone to a factory in Carrickfergus there, and they were telling me this is the digital transformation. They had a certain digital transfer plan they wanted. But it was when I went into the factory, I said, do you know, you can automate half of this stuff you're doing at the moment. They were like writing stuff on paper and stuff, you know. I was like, actually, you can data collect this all, and you can put the sensor in this machine. It can do that. We've completely changed the way they've done stuff now. But it took a person to come into a factory to look at the way they were doing it to see how to automate it. But the Go Succeed program, and that's free for a company and your clients, as long as they're under, I think, 50 employees for the Go Succeed, can get a person on site to kind of assess it.
Okay, would you be able to send us your email address, because it might be worth us having a chat with you about that Go Succeed program, so we know a bit more about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, perfect. No, I do that all day. That's normally people say to me like, "This is my digital transformation plan," and I will go, "Okay, that's fair enough, but let's have a look at what you're really doing." Do you know? Again, people say to me, "We want to bring in AI into our company," and I go, "Hold on a second. Let's look at what you're doing already with your data and stuff like that." So we nearly have to start from the bottom. So that helps them kind of start to get a bit of confidence in it. And then normally what I would do is, again, it could be for 5 to 50 people in the company, or it could be one. It's like, once we start identifying certain processes, can they bring in a student or a placement student just to help that company get with their digital transformation journey? And again, getting that champion into there. But yeah, Go Succeed is perfect for that. If you don't know,
if we
but
could
you
have
need to,
your details, because we also have at the campus a student arm as well, where they're doing degree programs, and they could actually maybe even benefit from a bit about Go Succeed, so that when they go into placement, that they have some understanding of what's available, and students will be getting ready to go on placement towards the end of the year. So it might be something we could arrange. Sorry, I'm taking over the rest of your...
No. Well,
no, that's a good idea.
So if you could drop me, I don't know if you have our details, an email, so we could get in contact with you after this.
You and Desi's and Roshing's group?
Desi, yeah.
All right, I'll email you. I know Desi anyway, so yeah, I can email you afterwards. That's perfect.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, and it's very good. The examples are really good, because sometimes the funding information, it's all about the funding and not the examples, and that helps then tell people what to go to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's where the Go Succeed can help. You know, if you have a certain get someone in, a mentor with years of experience in digital transformation, to kind of look at your processes and go, actually, this is the funding you can get it. And if DTFF isn't for you, there's other funding available there from Invest in I, from Intertrade Ireland. There's loads there. Like, that's one thing. When I moved up to Northern Ireland, there's funding on top of funding. You know, so that's.
No, that'd be brilliant.
I
can think of quite a few companies that would benefit.
Yeah, that's perfect. Anybody else then? Questions or best to ask now?
Martin?
Yeah, John. Yeah, John. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say there for Susan, that Go Succeed and might short circuit some of your stuff here, is delivered by in close to Susan is Dungannon Enterprise Centre, and they're the delivery partner in sort of Dungannon area, and there might well be one in Cookstown. But certainly, if you reach out to, or just even if you go on to Go Succeed website, you'll see either Dungannon Enterprise Centre's contacts, or there might well be one for Cookstown as well, and they're the people locally that are delivering this, you know, right across Northern Ireland.
Oh, great! Thank you.
Right, Martin, just might help you as well.
Yeah, well, there's actually, John, there's different levels. So in the Engagement Foundation, that's where the local enterprises are doing it. But we're on the growth stage, which is the third one, which is looking at your digital transformation and stuff. You can kind of look at it at the first two levels, but that's nearly like you're starting a business and stuff like that. But the growth stage is nearly you're an established business.
Are people better going to you for that elevated level then?
Yeah, if you're an established business, and again, you know, but I just know the local enterprises are doing, like, you want to do a business plan, do you know, that kind of, and again, they can help you with the business plan over 4 hours, but the growth stage is nearly the 21 hours, kind of doing digital transformation and, or, you know, sales and marketing for export and stuff like that. That's what I found.
Okay. Okay.
That's it then. Perfect. There's no other questions there. Again, anybody can ask anything there about their business. I could probably think of just some digital transformation you can do in your business, like tomorrow, very quickly, quick wins or anything. Okay, no, that's it then, like so. Okay, 3 minutes past a minute, that was our hour. Then if anybody has any questions for Davey, sorry, I didn't ask Davey, I don't know, a bit light on questions, but perfect. All right then. That's it. Anybody, there's a detail, Sean will send out our details then, me and Davey then, if you want to talk to afterwards, or there's the number as well if you want to call as well, like so. That's perfect. Thanks everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Start. Thanks.
Thanks for
Bye.
that.